Hi everyone, my name is Richard Santoro and I welcome you to Third and Zen, the YouTube channel where every week I'm sharing a spiritual message to nourish ourselves, heart, mind, body, and soul. First, thanks for stopping by the channel. Thanks for checking out today's video. I do hope that this video finds you doing well. I hope you're taking the time, the energy, the effort, the love, the patience, the space, whatever is needed to care for yourself, heart, mind, body, and soul. And maybe along the way, we're caring for each other as best we can. With that being said, let's all take a nice deep breath. Take a moment, just be still. I don't recall if I thanked you for being here, but I'm grateful you've taken the time. So be grateful to yourself for allowing yourself the time and space to just be here in this moment. So just breathe, be still, and we'll be as present as we can be. And let's get started with today's message, shall we? And I'm holding this with my hand. I'll do my best to not be shaky cam. I want to talk about Young Frankenstein and Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks. And I will preface all of that by saying, number one, if you haven't seen Young Frankenstein, I recommend you pause this video and go watch the movie. If you don't want spoilers, because there will be a little bit of spoilers. If you don't care about watching the movie, that's fine. It's okay. You won't be lost in this video. And I also want to preface it by saying I will do my best to not talk too much about how much I love the movie, but instead stay focused on what the message is. But let me start by saying how much I love Young Frankenstein. If I was at home and if this video is being recorded, you would see the framed poster of the Young Frankenstein movie poster on my wall. I love it. One of my cats, my beloved Gene, who's actually named, my family named him after Gene from the show Bob's Burgers, but I like to tell people that he's named Gene Hackman Wilder. That's what I say his name is after, two of the big ones, Gene Hackman, Gene Wilder, both obviously Young Frankenstein. I always forget Gene Hackman is in Young Frankenstein. Great cameo, one of the best cameos in movie history. Seeing Young Frankenstein when I was a kid, the viewing experience was one of the most important, most sacred viewing experiences I've ever had because of the situation in which I watched it. It was just probably the most perfect viewing experience ever. And it's one of my favorite movies. It's on my Mount Rushmore. It's on my letterboxd top 4. It's actually, I think second, Godfather, Young Frankenstein, The Thing, and Lord of the Rings. So anyway, I love Young Frankenstein, and I love Gene Wilder, and I love Mel Brooks. There is a new documentary on Netflix called Remembering Gene Wilder. And Mel Brooks actually just celebrated his 98th birthday. God bless him. Love Mel Brooks. But yes, a new documentary on Netflix called Remembering Gene Wilder. Anyway, it's there. Go look it up. Watched it one Saturday in the last month or two, and it just made me smile the whole time and cry the whole time. It was just lovely and beautiful. And that's where I'm going to go with this. Okay, so deep breath. Love Young Frankenstein, love Gene Wilder, love Mel Brooks. Watching this documentary, they were talking about Young Frankenstein. He went in chronological order, and when it got to Young Frankenstein, they talked about something that I'd heard before, but I kind of forgot. It landed differently when I watched this documentary. Young Frankenstein was, written by Gene Wilder, and he, was able to convince his good friend Mel Brooks to direct it. 1974, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, both came out. Both Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks. I mean, two of the best comedies of all time. That's quite a year for movies. 50th anniversary, too. Anyway, focus. So in the documentary, they're talking about the making of Young Frankenstein, a lot of really cool details. And one awesome detail. Now it's time to focus on what I'm going to talk about. In the documentary, Gene Wilder is talking about how they only had one argument the whole time. Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks only had one argument while making the film. They said it was just such a fun, wonderful, special, joyful, great creative and fellowship process, but one argument. Towards the end of the movie, towards the last act of the movie, and here's a spoiler, the creature, played by Peter Boyle, the creature Frankenstein, they want to present him to the social elite, the medical elite, the scientific elite, and they do the famous putting on the Ritz scene where Gene Wilder, Peter Boyle, Dr. Victor Frankenstein were on the stage with the creature, and they sing Putting on the Ritz. Now, Mel Brooks said, no, I don't think we should do this scene. Mel Brooks, real student of film. He was making it obviously as a comedy and a little bit of a parody, but also as a homage to the great director James Whale, who, directed the original Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, classic movies, important movies in cinema. So it was important to Mel Brooks. And he said, I don't think we should do this scene. I feel like it's not true to the heart of James Whale. I don't want to do it. And Gene Wilder was, very adamant, very animated, very raised and heated that, no, we have to have this scene in. And he argued for it and was arguing and really pushing and going at it, respectfully, but strongly to Mel Brooks. And finally, out of nowhere, Mel Brooks said, okay, it's in. Do it. And Gene was like, whoa, taken aback. And Mel Brooks said, and here's the key. Mel Brooks said, I wanted to see if you'd fight for it. And if you fought for it, then I knew it needed to be in the movie. He was sort of testing Gene Wilder to see if it was worth it, if he would fight for it. And then they filmed it, and Mel Brooks said, you were right. It's the best scene in the movie. It's what the movie is all about. So let me just briefly recap that with less adrenaline and passion and emotion. Number one, Mel Brooks said, no, the movie, that scene shouldn't be in the movie. We shouldn't, do that scene. And Gene Wilder fought for it passionately and with all of his heart, mind, body, and soul. And Mel Brooks on a dime changed his mind and said, okay. And he said, I wanted to see if you'd fight for it. If you'd fight for it, then I knew it belonged in the movie. Filmed it. It was great. And Mel Brooks said, I was wrong. You were right. It's what the movie is all about. So, aside from that being a fun story that I personally love, it poses two questions for us today. And here's the fruit for us. What do we fight for in this world? Who or what do we fight for? What are we so passionate about that we are willing to fight for it respectfully? What do we fight for? What do we notice in this world and care enough about to fight for in our personal lives, in our surrounding, in our relationships, in our immediate world, in our immediate orbit, sphere of influence, and in the larger world, in society, and on the bigger stage? What do we care enough about? Who do we care enough about to fight for, including ourselves? What do we fight for? What do we care enough to fight for? Like Gene Wilder and that Put on the Ritz scene, great scene. So that's question number one. Question number two, are we open enough to have our minds changed by the passion, zeal, thoughts of others? Like Mel Brooks was open. Like he admitted, I was wrong. You were right. You changed my mind. You were absolutely right. Not only did he say you were absolutely right, but he said, this scene is what the whole movie is all about. It's the key. It's the movie itself. So, who do we fight for? What do we fight for? What do we care enough about that we're willing to fight for? And are we open to change? Are we open to having our minds changed? I think that's more specifically what I'm trying to say. Are we open to having our minds changed about things that maybe where we stand on things? The way we see things, the way we perceive things, our thoughts. Are we open to someone changing our mind? So those are two important questions, and it's valuable to point out that it's not just about Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks, obviously. Jesus fought for things. He fought for people. He stood up and said, no, that's wrong. No, you're not correct. No, we're not doing this right. No, we got to do better. We have to treat, no, I'm going to stand in front of these people and I'm going to care. I'm going to help, and I hope that you're open enough, all of you, to change your mind, because, this is the way God is. This is the way God wants us to be. Will you change your mind? So, Gene Wilder stood up and said, no, we got to do it this way. This is the right way. I promise. Trust me. Mel Brooks said, okay, you're fighting for it. And that shows me that we need to do this. And then Mel Brooks said, I was wrong. You were right. My position was wrong. You were right. What do we fight for? What do we care enough about? Who and what do we care enough about to fight for and stand up and say, no, this way, I promise. And are we open to saying, okay, I'll do it? And then are we open enough to have our minds changed? Do we follow that path of Gene Wilder, of Mel Brooks? And do we follow that path of the love of Jesus, of saying, I'm going to stand up for these people. I'm going to stand up for this. And I'm going to hope that you open your mind and are open enough to change and follow this path. What do we fight for? Who do we fight for? What do we care enough about? And are we open to being wrong and having our minds changed? Thanks be to God. Okay, my friends, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for checking out today's video. I do hope in some way, shape, or form this video spoke to you and that you found it useful, fruitful, and food for your soul and your journey as you go forward. And at the very least, I hope you maybe smiled just thinking about Gene Wilder, Mel Brooks, and Young Frankenstein, and Jesus. That's a great trifecta. Go watch Young Frankenstein. All right, I love you all. Thanks for being here. I wish you nothing but peace, love, and fellowship with God on your journey as you go forward. Have a great day. Have a great week. I love you all. Ciao, ciao.